I was working on an idea with a buddy of mine called Johnny Phantasm.
The Johnny Phantasm stuff's really interesting. I like that, it's kind of dark and, it's fun. Nothing's too serious and dramatic.
That one right back there is like one of my first comic books I ever owned, that Tarantula kicking Spider-Man. See, it's interesting because like I went from watching Saturday morning cartoons, and then what I realized was there were these things called comic books, and I would like go down to like the local gas station, and I'd find these continuations of Transformers, G.I. Joe, Mask, and then when I was there, I picked up Spider-Man, West Coast Avengers and stuff like that, and that's how I got into like the other comic book stuff. But it all started with like the 80s like cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, all his stuff he does has a very, nostalgic sort of feel to it. And even though I have no memories of the 80s and I was barely alive in the 80s, just the love he has for it, makes me kind of nostalgic for something I can't actually remember.
So the first one is 1977. It's about a year before I was born, so it was like in the 70s. The one after that is, what is it, 85? Yeah, 85. And then we do 2001, and then 2001 in comics there were a lot of long panels. But also we did like some like Fast and Furious type of stuff, like lots of cars here. But also the cars are a nod to my Alex Toth love as well. Alex Toth drew a lot of cars as well. More cars. Right. Here, this one's pretty cool. So I lay out all these pages in Photoshop in color, and then I print them out, and then I ink on top of them. So the black is physical, and then the red is from the computer. Just over the years, I found that's easier. Because sometimes if I make a hand too small, or it's a good hand but it might be too small, or eyes are too big, I can just grab those in Photoshop and fix them. So it's kind of like this. It's like these girls are they're both like what's the dealer? A dealer. They're like twin dealers, and he's playing like a form of, it's like double poker, and against this guy who's like, he's like a god in the universe. He's an alternate dimension. It's kind of hard to explain, but they're in like this weird like gambling dimension where everything is like a sport. Everything is like a game. All the older stuff. Usually when I come to comic book stores, I go right to the long bins. These aren't in bins, but these are technically long bins. I'm on a mission to get every single G.I. Joe. That's kind of like everyone has like a collection of like everything. And I don't have a complete series, but G.I. Joe. Let me get that one. I don't have that one yet. So even though these are rough and they're pretty tight, I kind of like to go back with pencil just in certain areas where I'm not like 100% sure on. And I just want to go back. For the most part, I can go straight to ink with this, but there's just a couple little things I want to make sure that I understand what I'm doing. So what I am doing right now is, when I do a figure like this, I usually get the silhouette of it first. I want to get the shape of it. And then what I do is I draw it into the shape. So I'll usually just put some scribbles down and then work my way in and try to make some sense of it. It works like half the time. Like all this older stuff is like the stuff that like inspires me. I mean, that newer stuff. Yeah. This stuff in the cases. This is all good. This is like when comics were good, and that's kind of like our mission with Riot, is we're trying to make comic books good again. Lost a little something special. Well, here's a good one with Tarantula. That one right there is like one of my first comic books I ever owned. That Tarantula kicking Spider-Man. See, it's interesting because like I went from watching Saturday morning cartoons, and then what I realized was there were these things called comic books, and I would like go down to like the local gas station, and I'd find these continuations of Transformers, G.I. Joe, Mask, and then when I was there, you know, I picked up Spider-Man, West Coast Avengers, and stuff like that, and that's how I got into like the other comic book stuff. But it all started with like the '80s like cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons. Oh, this is a good book. You ever see this one? Danger Girl. It's like James Bond kind of, but with all girls. Yeah, it's crazy that we're on issue 11 of this. In the story, her name is Frost, and she is, she's kind of like my version. In my universe, I have like a Super Friends, and in this story that happens before this, spoiler alert if you haven't read Johnny Phantasm Extreme 93, in the beginning you find out that she's a part of like this Super Friends group. Super Friends is Iceman, Starfire, or Firestar, sorry, and Peter Parker. But in my version of it, I have like there's two girls and a guy, and the guy gets killed. Both the girls were like in love with him, so they go on this crazy journey with Johnny Phantasm. They get revenge, and they end up on this weird planet, which is like it's like a crazy Cannonball Run type of situation. But her name's Frost. She like kind of manipulates snow and stuff like that. While at my mom's house, I was going through her closet, and there was an old school Matchbox Voltron in there, still in the box. And then there was also a box of G.I. Joes, like, and pretty good like climate controlled like conditions. So I broke them out, and I just kind of like was looking at them, and this is when I'm just starting to get rolling with Johnny Phantasm, and I was just like, how can I make a Johnny Phantasm action figure? Like, that'd be fun to do. I don't know if it's like a bucket list thing, but I was like maybe I can do it. So I started picking up toys that you know, like I liked like the old school Kenner toys. I thought doing an old school Kenner style type figure would be great. Had one of my ex-students who worked at Hasbro do the sculpting for me. Reached out to a bunch of different toy companies. The first one got back to me, Toy Pizza. Jesse, great guy. And he was like, yeah, he's like, we can totally make this. And that toy went really well. Big Bag Toy Store has done very well with the Johnny Phantasm action figures. We've done some different colors of it. We've made some bad guys to go along with it. So we've had waves of Johnny Phantasm. See, I want some of these, but Whitney won't show me if I buy any of the super expensive ones.